Hi there, I'm Marc with the TZM Montreal, and I'm here with Marc Coppola of Valhalla.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking to him today about what Valhalla is, how the movement's progressing, and how it began, and hopefully getting the idea out there to other people who want to possibly start up a 100% self-sustainable community.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I'll let you discuss how Valhalla started and what was the inspiration behind it.
Okay, well, let me explain what Valhalla is first, and then I'll go into the inspiration and where it came from.
Okay, sounds good.
Valhalla is a movement of people who are coming together because we believe that there's something inherently wrong in the way our world works today. And I think this is something we all feel inside of us in our hearts to some varying degree, whether it be based on global warming or the government is corrupt. We kind of all know this.
Yeah.
The question is, what are we going to do about it? And so Valhalla is a group of people who come together to try and build a 100% off-the-grid community.
Right.
The idea is that we're trying to group people together to be able to live off the land, off their own means, but stay connected to the world and to the technologies that are today. So we're not trying to distance ourselves from these things or distance ourselves from society. It's not a political movement. It's really a movement of people who believe that being more self-sustainable, aka being able to produce your own water, or collect your own water, produce your own energy, produce your own food, and produce your own shelter, all on your own, will empower you to follow your own ambitions and heart into doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Whether that be art, whether that be videos, whether that be building or construction, or whether that be permaculture or gardening or whatever it is, that is the goal. We're basically created this movement out of a group of people who are mainly out of the, we know a lot about permaculture, we know a lot about marketing, and so what we said is, okay, how can we combine the two and make sustainable living and sustainable initiatives mainstream?
Yeah.
And that's basically the goal, is that we're hell-bent on kind of making not only the world that is possible in our hearts today, because our hearts are telling us that something is wrong, but also bringing the high-quality media content and the high-quality information that people can download either online or come in physically in person to learn all of this stuff and make it happen.
Fantastic. So the idea perhaps in the future would have like how-to guide of how to create something like this or modify it as
Absolutely. So we're going to have how-to guides on how to make a community, how-to guides on how to live self-sustainably, so what kind of housing you can have to do something like that. Everything from what we're doing is building earthships to how to grow your own food. What is the best ways of growing your own food? What are the things that we've learned? How to set up a solar panel? How to do everything and really center it around an education kind of perspective. And that's actually where the movement is being physically grounded. We have a 60-acre piece of land in Montreal, in the south shore of Montreal, about 20 minutes away from downtown. And what we're doing is building the first building, which is kind of like a community center or / education center, which is a place where people can come together and learn these things collectively, where they can share this information, where workshops can happen, where all of these people can reunite in one location and have it physically happening and see it working. The more it works, the more it comes together on that front, the more we're going to be able to achieve bringing in more experts, bringing in more high-quality media, and diffusing all of this content and information online.
It really sounds like you guys have taken the action part of it and not so much the theory or diffusing ideas, and really having a physical place where people can come and see how your theory and how your ideas have been implemented in the real world.
Absolutely.
That sounds fantastic.
We have 4 basic tenets to the movement, which is, the first one is action, as you said. The most important thing is that we can talk about it, we can know that the solutions exist, and for example, Zeitgeist, in my opinion, and I'll go into the motivation a little bit after, but in my opinion, it very much talks about there is a solution that is possible, and it convinces you of such to varying degrees. Some people more convinced than others. The point is that the technology is there for us to be able to move towards a more sustainable, better lifestyle for us. Okay? The question is, how do we put that into action? So that's our first tenet, and that's what we're very much grounded in doing. It's not only taking that action in this form of setting up solar panels and building off the grid structures, but also taking that action and publicizing it and having a whole media team, outreach team kind of thing that's doing that. The next one is community, doing everything under a collective banner, okay? People are going to achieve a lot more if they work together than if they work individually. The proof of such is corporations or any company that exists today. Walmart is successful because it's called Walmart everywhere you go. It's not Walmart in one town and then Kmart in another and so on and so forth. It's all the same entity in the same place, and it has the same branding that allows it to have what I call the collective flag. The collective flag is a banner that allows you to, when somebody sees it, they instantly know what you're about, they instantly know what you're talking about, and they instantly add this credibility that comes with the brand in and of itself. And that brand, if we become kind of one of the brands of sustainability as an action group, an action hub, and an education center to that, if we all collectively work under that banner, we are saving ourselves lots of time and organization that if we all did this separately. If we all tried to sell all our green initiatives under a different banner, it would take us, we would all have to do our own marketing, we would all have to do our own accounting, we would all have to do our own physical actions, we'd all have to set up our own websites. Why do that when we can work together?
Fascinating, yes.
And if we all have this, if we have a broad enough but a specific enough goal, like a broad enough goal that it's we want to do good and our mindset is sustainability, but we have very specific tenets that kind of guide how we move forward, okay? In the sense that we're not telling you that the answer is solar panels versus wind turbines. We're just saying the answer is sustainability. It's specific enough that it's not, the answer is anything.
Yeah.
And so do anything.
Yeah.
No. The answer is sustainability. Is it sustainably minded? If so, then it can be part of the collective flag. Okay. If the goal is sustainability and there's a true intention of that sustainability, then that's the aspect of it. And so the community aspect, community is very, people think, oh, so it's like a commune. It's like a place where everyone lives. Yeah, that's part of it. Ideally, one day we can have a whole bunch of these people living in the same area, but it doesn't have to be that. A community is everything from a hockey team to a group of lawyers who work in a law firm to students in a school. Those are all different communities. There are all examples of those communities. So doing things collectively under a collective flag, that's the community aspect. Okay. The third one is sustainability, which is kind of what I touched upon. Yeah. We are all focused on making a more sustainable future. Yes. So to do that, there's many varying definitions of what sustainability means, but in our mind, it means that you are able to provide your own water, energy, food, and shelter on your own. That those things are taken care of and not sourced from the grid, in a sense, or from outsourced, but in-sourced, and then all those other things that come with that can go in every which direction.
Okay, fabulous.
And the last one is knowledge. The sharing of that knowledge is very, very, very important. We have to have a place where this knowledge is transferred very effectively, and to me, and to most of the people in the movement, that is online. Right. We're going to have physical in-place workshops, but that knowledge should be held online and should be free and should be open source, so that people can take the ideas that we've had or that people, members that have had joined, and build upon it. Because we're not trying to be the proprietors of this knowledge. We're just trying to diffuse it and give it a media and a space and give it more attention than Miley Cyrus twerking, for example. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great, being able to give this kind of information to the largest community that is out there, and doing it in an open source framework would be able to have so much more input that would bring about more progress or prosperity towards your project.
Yeah.
And
I want to just correct one thing there. You said it was my project. You said the word your project. Yes. The reality is it's not my project. It's all of our projects.
Yes.
We have a very messed up world. We also have very messed up people. The problem is that we're not taking action, and we're waiting for other people sometimes to, the government is not fixing it. No, that's not the answer. The government is you. You govern yourselves. And in a sustainable mindset, technically, what we're asking of you is that you govern your own actions and put your money where your mouth is, put your time where your mouth is, put your intent where your mouth is. If you believe in something, do it.
Yes.
Don't sit there and wait for somebody else to do it, because it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Nobody else is going to do this for you. You have to do it for yourself, and
fantastic.
that brings back the spiral, back to action. You know, you take this knowledge and then turn it into action, bring it to a community and do it with other people, make it be self-sustainable. Take the knowledge you gain from that and bring back that circle again. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. A lot of what you just said there resonates a lot with.
But it's not my project. That's what I was trying to communicate. It's not my project. It's anyone's project. It is not my movement or anybody's movement. It's everyone's movement.
Yeah. And thank you very much for that correction. So maybe you could talk now a little bit about the actual physical place. You said you have 60 acres south of Montreal, about 20 minutes out of downtown Montreal.
20 minutes away from downtown Montreal, yeah.
And you have plans for a community center, and from what I read, there is also a greenhouse that is being installed and constructed right now. That's going to mix aquaponics with actual greenhouse production capabilities.
Yep.
As well. Was there something else on the?
Right now, I mean, okay, so in this 60-acre piece of land, what we've got going on is exactly what you just described. It's 20 minutes away from downtown Montreal. It's zoned agricultural, so it's agricultural land. Okay. But it borders housing. There's like literally houses right next door to it. Okay. It was used primarily in the past for corn and soya production, GMO style, Monsanto-esque, not esque, but Monsanto products, basically. And we've since slowly but surely taken over part of that land to develop it into the kind of test center and the community center that we would need to build a community around.
Yes.
So as you said before, the goal is, the first thing to do is to build a education center. That's the ultimate goal as of right now.
Right.
Education center built out of what our buildings are called earthships. Now, for those who don't know what earthships are, I can't do it full justice. You have to visit their website, and possibly that information is in the description below.
Yeah, we'll have that linked at the bottom.
Absolutely. You can go read an article on our website called 10 Reasons Why Earthships Are Fucking Awesome. I apologize for the language, but it's just, that's what it's entitled. And earthships are basically buildings that are fully self-sustainable, built out of mainly recycled materials, including tires, bottles, cans, garbage, literally garbage, and then recycled wood, glass, you name it, whatever you're able to recycle, so be it. And it could be made of new materials too if you wanted to. I mean, technically you can buy a whole bunch of new tires, you could buy a whole bunch of new glass and wood and all those things, but the reality is it's trying to be as recycled as possible. Yeah. It uses those tires to build the foundation, which encapsulates the entire north side. The entire north side of the building here is basically underground or buried underground to use the passive geothermal properties that digging underneath your feet currently has. So, example, you dig a couple 4 or 5 feet underneath your feet, you're going to start to have more and more of a stable temperature. It's a fairly cool temperature, but it's still stable. It's stable in the sense that it's warmer than outdoors in winter, and it's cooler than outdoors in summer, which is perfect for exactly what you need. Because here, example in Quebec, about 80% of all of our electricity usage comes from heating and cooling. It's not because your TV is on and you left the light switch on for a couple hours. Yes, that uses up electricity and it's not a good idea, but the reality is that that's a very small percentage of how much electricity you're actually using. What you're really using is not only heating and cooling of the air in your house, but just your water. The amount of heating and cooling that you put into just having a hot water tank consistently hot, scorching hot, so that when you turn on your shower it's hot, that is a lot of energy that is being used in that. Okay. So the entire north side of earthships are basically buried underground to enable it to have a completely sustainable, very constant temperature. The south side is basically inherently a greenhouse. It's a buffer zone between not only the outside world and the inside rooms, okay, but it's actually all completely windowed. The reason being is that in the summer, the sun tracks above your head, okay? So allowing the sun to penetrate those south-facing windows and enter into the greenhouse where you can have a whole bunch of plants, and it's called a greenhouse for a reason because you can plant your leafy greens. But in the winter, what happens is the sun actually goes down towards basically about a 45-degree angle. And the sun goes and sets, it rises less high in the sky and sets on the southern portion. If you're in the northern hemisphere, in the southern portion of your house. So it will actually beam into your house as it goes and tracks through the sky. It will beam into your house, warming up
all your rooms, passing through, almost like creating a greenhouse gas effect, where it's basically passing through the first layer of gas, warming up your greenhouse, which is a little bit colder, passing through another layer of glass, and then entering into your house and heating up the thermal mass that comes from all the tires being buried underground. So that, like I said, you're gonna have to go with visuals on this. North side buried in, you've got entrances and exits from the south and east side, but they're kind of generally buried in too. And then the entire south side has sun that beams in, stays cool in the summer, warm in the winter because of this, the ability to keep a much more stable temperature. Yes. I always give this example. If it's minus 40 outside and you want it to be 20 degrees inside, okay, we're talking Celsius here. If you want it minus 40 outside, you've got a 60-degree range of what you're combating to heat your house in a regular house. And between one wall and the outside, you've got one wall insulation, all that kind of stuff. The reality is here in an earthship, because you're buried underground, you've got a stable temperature of, let's say, 4 or 5 degrees, winter or summer, and then all you need to do is heat it up a couple more degrees. Your ability to do such saves all of that energy that you need, and now you can have green energy technology take care of that extra balance. If you want to set up some kind of heater system or whatever, you can have solar panels or a wind turbine or whatever other energy source that you want to be able to keep that temperature and rise that temperature to a very comfortable level. Yep. But earthships themselves do this very naturally. Their buildings are built, developed by this man named Michael Reynolds back in the 60s.
And there's hundreds of them built literally around the world. If you haven't heard of it, man, they're awesome. We've brought in the expert himself, Michael Reynolds, to Montreal, and the goal is that our education center is actually going to be built literally in conjunction with him next spring.
Oh, fantastic.
I'll say next summer, really.
Okay.
Yeah, spring is kind of putting all the pieces together, and next summer, so for people who are watching this summer 2014, is when we're literally bringing him down and some of his experts, and we're building it with him.
Fantastic.
Now, in the meantime, we actually built a greenhouse as a test version to such, earthship inspired, same principles, south-facing windows, north side buried, where we're testing out, number one, our ability to organize a group of people to do this, our ability to pound those tires and fill them with earth and turn them into these massive geothermal bricks in a sense that are almost impossible to move. And then testing out all the theory of like how warm does this greenhouse actually stay? Yeah. How much food can we produce in this 10 by 20 greenhouse, 10 by 20 feet by the way? And taking all those principles and testing them for ourselves, as opposed to just talking about them, as opposed to just reading about them and saying, oh, that would be nice, but never doing it. That's where the action comes in. We've taken those steps to doing that, and we funded it through initiatives like crowdfunding and Kickstarter and that kind of stuff, which enabled this to happen.
Terrific.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was, while researching earthships, one of the things that I found that I really liked was how the water system is used within that thermal mass. So you use the natural earth systems to heat or cool your water, and that's part of the actual your housing, instead of it being a separate component which you need to either heat or cool and add other energy into that system too.
Absolutely. So so obviously an earthship as a house, let's take it for granted that you understand that these earthships are actually working, okay, to the audience. These earthships actually work, let's say they're warm. Abide by that assumption for a moment. What you actually do is in that greenhouse portion of your house, you can now provide your own food. You can grow everything from, and I've seen it with my own eyes, banana trees going in the dead of winter.
Fantastic.
Okay, inside a house, no heating, no baseboards, no nothing. Some of the earthships do have firewood stoves, mainly because it's pretty, less so than they actually need to heat the house with this wood burning oven, okay? But the reality is you can always have it there, okay? Just even if you're worried about it, you can always put it there. They've had their own food growing in their own house. Some models even have their own koi fish ponds where you can literally fish in your own house, and the bigger they are, the bigger the greenhouse,
the
more.
Earthship.
Yeah.
It really is, the earth.
Yeah, you can add a double greenhouse, and you can grow way more food. You can make greenhouses that are attached to them. Point is, you can grow your own food year round, winter and summer, okay, on your land and in your house. You collect your rainwater through your roof. Yeah. It's basically, there's only two types of water that are basically clean in our world, and it's not coming from your tap. Your tap water is filled with chlorine and fluoride in some areas, and I don't want to go into the theories about those things. The point is, would you drink chlorine? Probably not. Yeah. So because I'm using it to clean stuff, chances are I don't want to clean my inside of my intestines and my stomach lining and stuff.
Yeah, so
the reality is it's probably clearly not very good for us. So there's two other options. We either go to the source, which is if we find spring water, and I don't mean Poland spring where it comes out of a tap. I mean real spring water, which is something we actually did recently. You could check a podcast with Daniel Vitalis on that. Maybe we'll link that too.
Yeah, we'll have.
Anyway, so you can check out our podcast for more information on that. Or you can collect rainwater. And either way, you're going to want to filter it. Okay, the spring water is very clean, but you might want to still filter it because it is living water. It has algae and all that stuff. But rainwater is a great way that everyone can source their own water right where they are without going anywhere.
Yeah.
You have a rooftop, you collect the rainwater, you manage it, you bring it in through chicken wire and all sorts of different filtering systems. You can do reverse osmosis. You can put it into any kind of system that you believe is the best filtering system. Okay, ceramic plates, you tell me UV lights, which is reverse osmosis, all that kind of stuff. Whatever you want to treat it, the way you want to filter it, the way you want to believe in it, by all means. You filter it in, you bring it into your house, and then you reuse it.
Yes.
This is the key. Right now, we're using way too much water. By the 2050, over 50% of the world is going to be in dire water conditions, which means that they're going to be dying of thirst or not have enough water to provide for all their crops and all the things that they do today. By 2050, that's pretty soon. I mean, we're both going to be alive, ideally.
People think that the peak oil crisis is bad, but peak oil peak water is one of the other ones that goes unnoticed. Unfortunately,
water is something that is not it's taken for granted because it comes out of our taps, and there's a shocking statistic. It's basically only 2% of the world's water is fresh water, which means that it's drinkable to us in this very moment. Now, most of that is polluted, but the other half of that, 1.1% of that, is actual glacial water. Which means that we don't really have access to it right now. I mean, I guess we can melt the polar ice caps, which we're effectively doing, and I don't want to go into the conspiracy of that, but the point is, or whatever, whether or not that's true or not, the point is, whether it's man-made or not, it's happening, but it's still only a very small percentage of that water. So the effective way of doing that is that you can collect your own rainwater on your rooftop. Now people say, well, is there really enough water to collect on your rooftop? Does it rain enough that you can have enough water? The answer is yes. Earthships were invented in New Mexico, in Taos, which is 2 hours away from Albuquerque. 2 hours away from basically civilization, in the middle of the desert. Now the desert people think, oh, it's super warm and there's no rain. You're right, there isn't that much rain. They only get 16 centimeters of rain a year, and they're able to live and sustain their lives without ever going to the grocery store, without going anywhere, by literally collecting their own rainwater 16 centimeters a year, and their own rainwater and their own snow, because they melt the snow, because it actually snows in the desert in the winter, and people don't realize that. Okay?
I was not aware of that.
There you go. In New Mexico, it snows. Yeah, there is snow in the desert.
I can get into specifics of how all this water works, but even in the desert, they have enough rainwater, and here in Montreal, we've got 80 centimeters, 80 on the smallest rain amounts that we've ever had in a year basis in terms of rain and snow. We've had 80 centimeters of rain. So if they're sustaining with their lives with 16, we can sustain it with 80. Then taking that water and reusing it. So gray water systems, black water systems, making it come out of the sink. Use that water from the sink to go feed underneath your botanical cells, which is your greenhouse and your plants. It gets filtered through that, goes in, uses that gray water to flush your toilet from your toilet, because why flush your toilet with clean water? Right. Doesn't make sense. Take that gray, that black water now that's filled with all that stuff, and then make it go into the botanical cell outside. You can grow other plants. They don't have to be, ideally they're not edible plants, because it could come, it's not necessarily good to eat your own shit in a sense. But the reality is that you could still make a very lush garden-like area outside with this black water system, and you're reusing this water numerous times in the cycle.
That's terrific. So it really does sound like a self-contained system that's recycling and reusing everything, all the inputs that are already there.
Absolutely, and that's the goal. And then stack that. So building an education center out of entrepreneurship is one thing, and then the next thing that we're doing is called permaculture.
Yes.
And permaculture is the ability to basically make like a food forest and allow plants to work symbiotically with one another to make sure that, for example, tomatoes grow great with asparagus and basil. And if they're put together, some of the pests of tomatoes are actually deterred from some of these other plants. It's called companion planting. Okay? And I'm not the expert on this, and so I'm not going to be the person who's going to explain to you all the elements of permaculture, but the idea is that permaculture has been used to basically turn deserts into forests and into food-producing forests, if you want. And that is a very powerful tool that can be used to actually help nourish a population right where they are, using all those inputs and all those things. So, you know, off the grid energy, yes, I understand, you know, the carbon footprint of solar panels is bigger than, you know, the savings, but the idea is that we have to move in that direction. If we start valuing that direction, the better technologies, the more efficient ways of doing these things will come out. You know, I've heard of solar panels in TED Talks. I've heard of solar panels that are see-through and we can put on the side of buildings.
Spray them on. And,
spray on solar panels. I don't know. I mean, the point is, but we have to kind of demand it before it ever comes out. You know, we're not going to have the electric car today unless we start buying it. If we start asking for it, we start saying, hey, we want the electric car, we want this cheaper alternative, or we want the greener product, or we want the organic food, then we have to put our money where our mouth is. You know, there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, organic would be so much better than GMO. And I'm like, okay, cool, which one do you buy at the grocery store? GMO. Well, I mean, at some point, I'm not perfect, and I still, you know, I don't buy all the best products. Definitely my dietary habit is probably my weakest point, personally. But the idea is that I'm moving there. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to produce my own food. I'm trying to move in that direction. And it's hard for me to do it on my own because I don't always have all the knowledge or whatever. But now as a group of people coming together, planting these trees on the land and making all this all happen and designing our permaculture plan, we will effectively in a couple of years be able to completely sustain ourselves.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Maybe getting back to that group of people and the actual project right now, what exactly do you guys have going on right now?
There's so much going on. I mean, there's two things. There's the online component and the offline component. Offline, we just kind of talked about it. Building an education center, permaculture, adding more and more, and then eventually, potentially, ideally making a community of self-sustainable structures for people who believe in this, people who are members, people who actively work on the project and the movement itself can live. Okay? And then spreading that and into other areas and starting other Valhallas, like one in Vermont that's kind of looking like it's shaping up, or Colorado or in LA or in the UK or whatever. We've got little factions of groups of people coming together to make that happen. That's one thing. Okay? Making these things physically happen, making these workshops physically happen, and then making that information be shared in person, live in person. There's the online component, which in our opinion is incredibly important. The reason why giant corporations work really well is because they have really great marketing. Because their option, their alternative, their choice is better known than the alternative choice. Because we've kind of forgotten those things, and not through necessarily our own fault, but through, you know, where we source our information. If we see our information sourced through online or through TV ads and those kind of things, some of them, when we have a problem, we turn to what we saw. Oh, I have this problem with my squeaky door. I'm gonna go after the solution that's going to fix this squeaky door because I saw this advertisement on TV.
So what is the Valhalla's focus with the media platform?
So there's three main focuses. Okay. The first is becoming the outlet, the alternative media website and network for alternative ideas. So basically becoming a group of people who take photos, videos, bloggers, web designers, graphic artists, conglomerating all these people together under the collective flag, and then creating the content that makes alternative ideas, like sustainable ideas, like earthships, for example, and bringing that into the cultural forefront. Bringing that into the masses and letting people see that on Facebook as opposed to, again, Miley Cyrus twerking as an example.
Or people's dinners. Or
exactly. So it's kind of like, if you've ever seen there's a media company that's very self-funded, created by a Canadian, called Vice, where they do like these short documentaries on random topics, becoming almost like the Vice of the sustainable movement. That's one thing. So we'll always have a call out to people who are animators, graphic artists, photo bloggers, you name it, you create content, you want to join, man, do we want to hear from you. Check out our website, contact us from there, or Facebook or whatever. That's one thing, for sure. The second thing is that most green initiatives, most problems that come with the green sustainable movement is that there's a lack of funding in sustainability. There's a lack of of investment in sustainability. Yes, some giant corporations or some giant government organizations like NASA and these things invest in these things, but that information isn't really available to us, and it's not really benefiting us just yet. So how do we help fund green initiatives? And so far, we've had success with something called crowdfunding, which is if your idea is worth something, and if your idea resonates with a lot of people, you will have a certain amount of people who are donate to your idea. And they donate to it for various reasons, whether they believe in the project or whether they just want one of the rewards back for them. Hey, whatever. The point is that they crowdfund your idea with small incremental donations to this idea. And then we are held accountable to that idea by actually doing it and providing the rewards that we promised, providing back the information that we promised to give back. Like with what we did with our greenhouse, for example. We promised that we would give people the direct plans to the greenhouse. We promised them we would give them how-to videos on making a greenhouse. We promised some people that we would give them a t-shirt or whatever. All these things are enabling this information not only to help fund us doing it and doing the research, but also then empower the people to, once we've done it, saying, hey, here's what we did wrong, here's what I would do, here's the plans, you can do it too. Enabling more and more people. If we can make I don't want to say the official, but a crowdfunding platform that is very sustainably minded and focuses on funding sustainable initiatives, then that's exactly what Valhalla needs to do. And that's exactly what we're working on now. It's a longer term process, and we're coding it on something that's a little bit more complex than I guess most regular websites. But that is a very important initiative that we want to bring forward and send something we want to do.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I personally have experience with NGOs and nonprofit organizations, and the times that I was working for a number of these organizations, most of my time was spent trying to get grants, trying to get funding in one way or another, and most of the people complain. It's like, we spend up to 60 or even 70% of our time just trying to get funding for these amazing projects, for these terrific ideas that are benefiting so many people.
Absolutely. And then this is our way of trying to empower those people to be able to make these projects come into fruition, is that if your idea is good enough and you can bring a good amount of attention, and our media conglomerate is bringing people with like-minded ideas, like people who watch Zeitgeist or like people who whatever, all these people have a very similar mindsets. These people now need to take initiative and help fund these projects or help partake in them. Even if you don't have money, you can partake, you can learn, you can add, you can even make your own project. Let's say you're the genius with the idea of like, I created a new solar panel and it's going to be 10 times more efficient, but I need it to be funded. Put your idea online. If it makes sense, if you make a nice video and pictures and what you're laying forward speaks to people, then they can fund it.
Cool.
And we help them do that. And we're going to help bring as many people as possible to the network. But at the end of the day, what they're also doing is bringing effectively more people to our network too. And it's making us this alternative media giant that really needs to happen.
Yeah. I always use this analogy, and I think it makes people laugh, but it's very true. I always say that Brad Pitt can move mountains. And people are like, what? I'm like, if Brad Pitt asked all his fan base to take that mountain that's over there in the distance and move it from there to like 10 kilometers south of there, he could probably do it. Why? Because millions of people believe in Brad Pitt, they love Brad Pitt, and they would love for him to be able to make it happen. And they would love to just help and just to be able to meet him. So why not take that power, the power of influence, and then take that, and this is something that's created out of nothing, as money, and you guys know, okay? Take that power, which is something we could create out of thin air, and use that power to influence positive ideas. Positive change, actual change that makes things move forward in the direction that we need to. And so that's the second platform, that's the second goal.
Which is more long term. But if people are interested now, would they be able to contact you guys and the movement if they wanted to?
If people want to partake in making that happen, if people want to partake in bringing some stuff to that, yes. Yeah. We are going to be launching our own Kickstarter for some of our own small projects very soon on our own site. So we did our initial Kickstarter on Kickstarter.com. Now we're going to be making our own crowdfunding platform and kind of doing the test runs and the beta testing on our own shortly. So people who watch this, maybe you'll see it in the next month or two or whatever on our site.
Okay.
The third initiative is building, once you have the media, once you have the crowdfunding source, now you have a group of people who are all interested. You have to build a network. And the network has two needs. One, to connect. Okay, they need to know where the events are, where the workshops are, where the sustainable communities are that they can visit, because I know there's hundreds of sustainable communities around the world. I don't know where they are. They don't have any good marketing. They don't have great websites that I've visited before. Because if I knew where they were, I probably would have visited them as opposed to trying to start my own.
Right.
Now I realize that there's people who need to start them and there's people who need to join some, and I think there's benefit in both. I'm going to be doing an eco-village kind of tour where I'm going to learn from these people and come back and bring it to our projects here. But having that network come together is a very, very important aspect of it. And so we actually are teaming up, and it looks like we're teaming up with a project called Project Nuovo Mundo. So to say that again, Project Nuovo Mundo, their goal is to get all these sustainable-minded people to sign up to almost like a crowdfunding, not a crowdfunding, a social media platform that has people, events, and communities where all these like-minded people can connect. So where they can go to see workshops, where they can interconnect and add each other and talk to one another, and where they can potentially meet up or conglomerate or start helping in terms of communities.
That's fantastic.
And that's the third project. Now, as a subcategory of all of these things, when you have a movement of people, you have to have decision-making process, right? There's numerous people who want to join. We're numerous members at this point. Maybe we're about 24 people. A dozen people work on this full time or very actively. And then I'd say like another dozen people that are really actively helping, but not there all the time. They're not at every meeting kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're looking for more, and we're always looking to inspire more people to join and contribute in whatever way possible. So again, I invite you to do that. But what we're now building is something that is the decision-making platform. For us to be able to have decisions move forward, we have to have some kind of system that allows us to happen. And I don't know how many of you guys heard of a decision-making platform called You Decide, I believe it's called.
You Decide. It sounds familiar, but
It's basically what Iceland used to rewrite their constitution. Okay? What they did is they made a Reddit-style system, okay, which says, here's a proposal. Underneath that proposal, people could put their top cons and their top pros for and against that proposal. And then people could read all this information, see the top cons, top pros, see what the proposal is, and then vote yes, no, or indifferent on it.
Okay.
And creating that kind of decision-making platform where people can make this happen allows us to be anywhere in the world and log in, see what's happening, and make decisions on that. Iceland was able to rewrite their constitution with this, which is it's not the biggest country, but it's not the smallest amount of group of people
But
either.
it's a country.
Yeah, if you want to actively take part, you take part.
Yes.
This allows for direct democracy, basically. Okay, it allows, now how you decide, is it 50%, is it 60%, is it consensus basis, is it whatever? I don't know. We like sociocracy and we're possibly going towards there, that's another story, but the idea is that we do need an online platform, an online solution to be able to bring ideas to the forefront and then have those ideas have pros and cons that everyone can outweigh and then truly have all the information that they would need or most of the information or be able to contribute information that's being overlooked and then vote on it in one platform, one place. And that's what we're also developing right now, is this taking the You Decide and kind of bringing it to the next level and putting that on our website as well. So we're going to have discussion forums where ideas can be shared. We're going to have a crowdfunding platform. We're going to have the media section where information is disseminated out, and hopefully we can monetize and turn into. I don't want to say monetize. Hopefully we can incentivize people to do these things and partake in them, and then slowly but surely remove money and all these things out of the equation and say what we're doing is all helping each other. Once this turns into a place where a lot of people can conglomerate and a lot of these things and needs are met, we can start focusing more and more on these things. Anyway, that's another story.
Okay.
But crowdfunding, media, and the connection, the social media platform, and then having this overarching decision-making platform that works very much like Reddit. If you have a topic that a lot of people are interested in, it gets voted up to the top, and more people will see that topic. Once it gets voted on, it gets removed off the server, and then new items of concern go up. Okay. Example, we have a piece of land. One group of people makes a proposal of saying, we're going to put out an apple tree next to the pond over there. And they're like, okay, cool, boom. They enter this in. A lot of people are taking interest as to what we're going to do in that area. So it starts rising in ranks, gets upvoted to the top. And then people list the pros and cons of planting apple tree. Pro, more apples. Con, maybe we could have used that area for something else because maybe we need a solar panel there instead.
Right.
And so people jump back and forth. You have a deadline for when the decision needs to be made. And then people have enough time to go and see the things and vote. They vote by becoming an actual member. If you're a certified kind of member of the movement itself, which that's another process to be scrutinized and developed. But slowly but surely we're getting there. That allows us to be able to make a decision, move forward, and then act upon that decision.
Okay, well that's...
Which is a massive intake of information that I just dropped.
No, that's great. Well, those are the questions that I had for you.
Sure.
Steve, do you have a
Well,
question?
I'm thinking more like Zeitgeist is more global movement than just it's not based on just one part of the world.
Yeah.
It's based on globally coming together.
Yeah.
It's not a short-term thing as what you guys are doing. Obviously, you guys are going there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our idea is much more long-term, which is maybe 50, 60 years.
Yeah. So how is this a global movement?
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Valhalla is a global movement, and sustainable communities like yours. There's also a transition movement, which is also a sustainable movement,
Yeah.
global. How we could bridge all these gaps between us and you, and come together to go that distance, so we could end up in a place
Where we want to be. Yeah. So how could we bridge the gaps between our current situation and the world that we believe is possible in our hearts?
How do
Fully
you
understand.
Yeah. How do you see for Valhalla to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the number one power that Valhalla has, and more so than doing things physically, is also to do things online. Doing these things in a way where creating the decision-making platform that people can take and open source and use within their own organizations, their own communities, and their own organizational efforts to potentially make their own self-sustainable community or conglomerate of individuals. That's one thing. The next thing is that people need to take action. They have to feel personally responsible to being part of the change, and the best way to take action is either start something of your own initiative or join another initiative that you believe in. You have to do this today. This has to be somebody's number one priority. You can give me any excuse in the book. I'm too busy. I don't have enough money. Blah, 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 blah. They're all excuses. They are all excuses. I'm going to say it 1,000 times. They're just an excuse for your inaction, and your inaction is exactly the problem. It is not the government. It is not necessarily the monetary system. It is your inaction that is the root cause of the problem. Because if we take action and you take action, you're going to inspire your friend to take action. And then her friend, and then their friend, and their friend, and then numerous people are taking action. Things actually happen. Okay? Zeitgeist proposes at one point that we all get rid of money and fractional reserve banking is a problem. Fully agree. The only way we get away from fractional reserve banking, number one, is that we actively create a better solution to it. There is no way that we can all just throw all our money tomorrow morning, which is at one point Zeitgeist kind of talks about, let's ditch all our money and everything will be okay. No, there is a transition that has to happen before that, because I'm not going to ditch my money unless I know that everyone else is going to ditch your money, and that's just realistically not going to happen anytime soon. The way that it happens is through transitioning towards self-sustainability. I can ditch money if my food is provided to me, my water is provided to me, my shelter is provided to me, and my energy is provided to me. So if we all become self-sustainable, then we all can actually ditch the things that are enslaving us to pursue the things that we want to pursue. So this is why sustainability is the answer. Now, I fully agree that technology is a huge part of sustainability. We have to use technology to our advantage to work for us. Can we eliminate jobs over time? Absolutely. We can eliminate them today. We don't need accountants and lawyers and all those things to some degree. Sometimes we do, certain matters we do. And we will always have elements of issues. There will always be conflict. We will always need, there's always passion crimes. There's always people who commit crimes just for the sake of committing crimes because they get a rush out of it. You're always going to need cops. You're always going to need these things. But what we can have is all of those people be more sustainably minded, operating in a more sustainable system, and have more of a direct democracy that comes with using technology to make these decisions and actively partake in those decisions. How do you do that today? Again, the way you do it today is take personal responsibility towards it, put your money where your mouth is. So if you believe that organic food is better to you, buy organic food. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter that it costs more. Why? Because let's weigh it out. Organic food is a perfect example. Organic food costs more than GMO food, hands down. The difference is you get, let's say, 100 nutrients in GMO food, you get 300 nutrients in organic food. You can now eat less of the organic food, which is probably better for your health, but get more nutrients, and then in turn save money because you're eating less, you buy less of it. So the offset cost of that means that you're buying organic, you're supporting local, you're supporting the things that you believe, that you're saying you believe at least, and what you're doing is effectively making your own transition towards that movement. The more people buy organic, the more organic farmers there's going to be, the less power Monsanto is going to have, the less power all of these giant corporations are going to have. If you don't want Walmart to be super powerful, don't buy at Walmart. Now I know exactly what you're thinking. Well, I'm not going to do that, but everyone else will continue to. No, they won't, because it will become cooler for people to do the opposite. You know, in the same way that dieting trends become a fad, right? There's fads of Atkins diet or this diet or that diet. If a lot of people jump on board of buying organic and being healthier and doing yoga and doing whatever it is, more and more people will jump on that bandwagon. More and more people will ditch Walmart and all those things. More and more people will be like, oh, I'm cool. I buy from the farmer's market. Whether they're motivated to be cool or whether they're motivated because they actually understand what the issues are at hand, it doesn't matter. Well, your actions can convince numerous other people to make that their actions. Your actions influence other people's actions. Don't wait until other people do things that you want to do. You do them, other people will follow. The Zeitgeist movement has to be about leaders, not about followers necessarily. The followers will follow the leaders. If you lead your own life in the direction that you believe, you will achieve. And sometimes some people are going to be left behind. I agree. Not everyone's going to change. Some people are still going to shop at Walmart. It's always going to happen. But at least you and a group of people can start conglomerating and making the better alternative to it that will empower it. So how does Valhalla play a role in that? Number one, it leads through action. It promotes community and people coming together. It promotes sustainability and diffuses that information and knowledge through its media sources. And then it takes that knowledge and recycles it back into action, community, sustainability.
How many places do you have that are actually starting off their own projects? Like how many countries?
I would, in terms of countries, the Valhalla Movement, you have to understand, it only started about a year ago. Okay, so for people to grasp this, we're not as big as Zeitgeist, we're not as big as all these things because we don't have a feature-length documentary yet. The answer is that we're actually working on that right now, and that's part of why Zeitgeist got such popularity. The reality is you guys as Zeitgeist followers and a movement can take all of that information, all those people, all the conglomerate of intent and ideas and make it happen. How many do we have right now? I would say maybe 4 or 5 different little movements are slowly but surely starting. One in Colorado, one in Vermont, blah, 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 blah. I can name them. The point is you can start them. You listening right here can start your movement, get a couple of people together. What's people are like, oh, what do I do to make it happen? I didn't know what to do. I just started. I said, oh, I'm going to plant a tree and see what happens. Then eventually we dug a pond. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do with this pond? Oh, well, maybe we'll put fish in it. We'll fish out of it one day. And you slowly but surely moved in that direction, and it became slowly but surely more and more clear as to what we were doing. You don't need a big piece of land to start. You need a group of people dedicated to making it happen. Permaculture, gardening, eating organic, buying local, or all those things happen today without you taking any action or having anything different than what you already have. You can make this happen today, and you don't need 60 acres of land, you don't need 5 acres of land, you don't need 100 acres of land. You need only to decide that you are doing it. That is it. That you have to decide for yourself that you're going to do it, because if you don't do it, it is all talk.
And I think that's one of the things that we really resonate on the same level with, from what I've heard about the Zeitgeist movement, is that we really try to get leaders, or like startup leaders, if you will. Mm-hmm. So you join the movement, or is really just a framework, certain ideas that you join. It's not necessarily a movement, but it brings up the fact that you can choose to do things. You can choose to start up your own projects once you have, a basis in information that I think the movement just tries to disseminate.
Yeah, and this, a lot of barriers to entry is that people are like, oh, well, I still don't have enough information.
Yeah,
Again, I didn't have any information when we started this. I knew nothing about earthships, I knew nothing about sustainability, I knew nothing about permaculture, I knew nothing about any of these things. Yet, here I am talking to you about all of these things, and you're trusting me to know all of these things. Why? Only because I started talking about it. Yeah. Because I started talking about it, I found the information. The information turned into more talking, which turned into more information, which turned into more talking, and more people conglomerating around this information and making it happen. This is what actively happened. You make a group, you create content, you document everything that you do so that other people know that you're doing it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed on your website.
Yeah. We talk about documenting all the time. Super important. If you want to make a movement happen, the movement happens because people know it's happening. If you document what you do, in your documentation of it, more and more people are starting to join. Oh, I see that you're setting up solar panels on your house over there. That'd be really cool. I'd love to learn. Boom, great. More people come. They learn. They start meeting like-minded people. That's what Zeitgeist did effectively. It created a small network of people with a whole bunch of different resources and ideas and initiatives and ways of making the world that we believe possible in our hearts, and grouping them and saying, yes, we believe in this. We believe we could potentially get to a resource-based economy and all that stuff. I fully believe in it too, but it doesn't happen unless you take action. I guarantee you that the government is not going to make a resource-based economy tomorrow morning, and I guarantee you we're still going to be pumping oil out of the ground tomorrow morning if we don't start taking action today. And the action has to be geared towards creating a solution, not protesting. Protesting only effectively tears down what is already not working. Great, we can tear it down, but it'll tear itself down and it will fall apart if everyone just starts shifting towards the better option of it.
Yeah,
it literally just, it will fall in its own shambles. It will fall based on its own merit and lack of adequacy if you come up with a solution. Put energy and time in not being angry about the system and how it is. Put energy and time into creating and being part of that solution. Don't sit there just consuming this media and consuming, that there was a shooting at the Navy place and blah, 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 blah. Great, we all know about it. We all know it's fucked up. We all know all this information. You have enough information already. If you're watching this, if you've stumbled upon this in any way, shape, or form, you know enough today that you have to start acting tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Today, sorry. Don't act tomorrow. Today. You act today, yesterday, every day of your life. You can act if you have a job. You can act if you don't have a job. You can act if you have no reason to. You can act if you have millions of dollars. The point is you can act today, and you have to actively put your money and mouth where your feet and intent needs to go. You have to make it happen. I can't stress it enough.
Okay,
That being said, I think we all need to be done with this, and that was great. Thanks.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks for taking time from your busy life.
No problem. I'm always here to motivate more people to take action, and this is why I do it. This is my way of taking action, and this could be yours too.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Here.